Hi everybody, Joe here from SHUTTERSPEAK Photography. So I was working on an image and I got to the phase of this image where I was going to start adding in the shadow and then a drop shadow. Now I've touched base on this technique before for a very simple way to add a drop shadow, but I thought it really deserved a video of its own. So again, in the middle of the starting phases of an edit. It's not a complete edit, and a lot of times when these videos are done, they're just for illustrative purposes and they're not finished products. When I produce, I really just want to show you a technique. So if something in this video helps you, please do me a favor and help me out by hitting subscribe and hitting the like button, and by all means leave me a comment, because I do try and answer every comment. So if you have something to say, shout it out. But anyway, hey, let's get to the image and let me show you this technique of adding an easy and quick drop shadow. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so we are here in Photoshop, and the first thing we want to do is we're going to add a little grounding to the model. She's been placed into this background. Okay, so we need to ground her a little bit. We're going to do that by darkening up the area around her. So to do that, we are going to add a new layer. I'm going to actually bring that layer beneath her. Okay, and with a black brush, and we're going to place this into multiply. If I can find it, there we go, multiply, the blend mode. And we're just going to brush in a little bit of dark around that area with kind of a soft brush. Flow is at about, we're going to put our flow at about 35%, and opacity for now we're going to put all the way up to 100. We're just going to brush in a little area underneath, kind of like that, and maybe we'll make this a little smaller. And just get around our model. Okay, and that looks pretty good. There we go, missed a little spot here and there. Maybe back there a little bit. Okay, now what we can do is, of course, we can control the opacity of this, so we'll bring it down a little bit, maybe about 60% or so. That's looking pretty good. Now we want to add the drop shadow in behind the girl. Now there are many different techniques to adding a drop shadow. We could use the mask, a variety of other things, but the thing that I find kind of the simplest to do is just to go select our model, go right here to FX and say drop shadow. Now this isn't going to add the drop shadow that we need, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the strong shadows in this image and see which direction those are headed. So if we actually, I'm going to cancel this out so we can take a look at those shadows. We have a little bit of shadow falling this way, a little bit that way, and again back here. So there's no real strong direction to the shadows. So I think we kind of have a little bit of leeway, but I'm going to make our shadows go backwards. Okay, because it looks like the light is kind of coming in from this direction, from the foreground. We can also see light coming in this way, so maybe we'll go in this direction with the shadow. Okay, so again, let me go back to FX. We're going to go to drop shadow, and now here we can control the angle of light, and let's move our shadow out so you can see which way the shadow is going to be, and you can see also in this preview. So by changing the angle of the light to more closely match the angle of the light in this photo, we can create the drop shadow. We're going to move the drop shadow out to about there. That looks fine. And now at this point, just say OK. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to Layer. We're going to go to Layer Style. And we're just going to say Create Layer. And click OK to that. And now we have a layer right here. That's called drop shadow. Okay, now we can take that drop shadow and move it wherever we want. And we see it's already made and matches the shape of our model perfectly. So that is fantastic. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of ground it and then hit Control T to transform. And now I can drag this shadow out any way I want and place it wherever I want. Okay, so again, we know that the light is kind of coming in from this direction, so let's kind of put it like somewhere around there. That's going to be fine for now. And now what we need to do is we're going to give it a little bit of blur because it's too sharp. So just go into Filter, go into Blur, and pick Gaussian Blur, and maybe we'll give this like a 8 pixel blur, maybe a little bit more. Let's give it a 10 pixel blur. Okay, that looks good. And now there's a couple of different ways we could do this. Okay, so of course we can control the opacity of this layer, and we can bring that shadow down or up as much as we want. But if it were a real shadow, the further away it got, the lighter it's going to get. So one of the ways we can do this also is by adding a mask onto this layer. And then we can take a gradient. Okay, so, oops. I'm going to go over here to gradient. Okay, and with the layer mask selected, what we're going to do is we're going to fill this with black so that there is no shadow. And then we're going to draw out a gradient from black to white. Actually, I drew it the wrong way. There we go. That's better. Okay, so you can control the gradient up here by clicking on it, and you'll see it's black on one end and white on the other. Okay, white, please. Okay. Okay, so again, now let's just draw that out. And we can kind of play with this as much as we want to get this right. So, before, the after. Okay, and in terms of your gradient, if this isn't looking, let's just double click on this. Okay, if this gradient isn't looking the way you want it to be, okay, the way you do it is by controlling the point. So you can click on a point and pick the color. Okay, we say okay. Click on the point and again control the color. Okay, so and then when we draw in the gradient, okay, you'll see it appear here. So black to white, and turning it on and off, toggle it on and off, you can see how that's going to look. Okay, and so that looks pretty good. I kind of like it like that. And again, of course, we can play with the opacity a little bit if we wanted to, but it's not bad. Photoshop automatically fills it at 35%, and this layer is in multiply mode. So you could actually then, again, take this layer to normal if you wanted to, and then play with the opacity here as well. So dropping down the opacity. So either way, both methods are going to work pretty good for you. So you can either go to multiply mode or go to normal mode with the gradient. Again, the nice thing about the gradient is that it's going to fade that shadow out the further away it gets. And again, it makes a pretty nice result. Maybe take this up a little bit more. If we had strong shadows, we try and match the shadows in the image. There's a little bit of a shadow there. Try and match about the strength of these shadows. And I'd say we're pretty close at that point. So I think at this point we're looking pretty good with the shadow, and we are ready to move on to some color grading and some special effects after that. So that's it for the drop shadow. That's how we do it. It's a quick, easy method. I think it works really well. It's one of the easiest methods of adding a really nice drop shadow in that I've seen. It works great for me. If any of the tips in this video help you out, please do me a favor and help me out by hitting subscribe. This is still a new channel, so subscribes really do help me out. So again, if I've helped you, please help me by hitting that subscribe button. Also hit the like button, ring the bell so that you get notified of future videos on this channel. And by all means, leave a comment. I always answer comments. So thanks for watching. It was nice to see your smiling faces again here on YouTube, and I will see you next time. Thanks again.